Let's start at the 9K and above. So we got Dustin Johnson all the way up to Justin Thomas, who is our highest price player at 11.3. A little softer pricing this week, as we usually see on DK with major championships. A lot of new money, a lot of public money, a lot of people that don't play a lot of PGA Tour DFS are flooding in, and they tend to soften up the prices. Plus, it's just an incredible field, so the price is soft. So JT coming in 11.3 feels like a little bit of a bargain. And I will start with JT. That is who I'm going with at 11.3, coming off the victory. I just love JT at this golf course from a tee to green standpoint. Now, he did scare me a little bit as he started to leak oil there coming down the stretch. But I feel like I don't think anybody's irons right now in the game of golf, both in the short-term recent form since the restart or the long-term last year to 2 years. I don't think anyone's irons are better than Justin Thomas. And I love that. I love that on a major championship golf course where we know you got to hit greens and you got to give yourself birdie-making opportunities. We know JT can play excellent on tough golf courses if the rough is, in fact, up and this place is brutal or the wind gets to blowing. He can do that, as we've seen him do at Oakmont and other majors throughout the years. But we also know that if it plays a little easier, which PGA Championships historically do, and the winning score here is 15 under to 18 under, we know he can keep up there too. I love the form, as I mentioned. So I think JT is a no-brainer for me, and the salary is plenty soft enough for me to be able to fit him into a lineup. So I'll roll with JT. Then I'm going to drop down to Xander Schauffele. $10,000 Xander Schauffele, another superb iron player of late since the restart. Xander is freaking killing it. He is first in this field in greens and regulation since the restart, third in strokes gained off the tee, fifth in par 4 scoring between 450 and 500 yards. We just saw him get a sixth at the WGC St. Jude. He's a California boy. I kind of like a little California edge this week. There's something to playing on the West Coast and being familiar and like understanding those surfaces out there. So I kind of will give a little lean towards some California homers. Don't mind that whatsoever. And then finally, if I have to plant my flag on one more player for tournaments, I am going to go with Patrick Cantley. Another California kid. I was on him last week at the WGC. He sucked the first 2 days, absolutely sucked, but came back with a vengeance and had a pretty good weekend en route to a T35. Cantley's a ball striker. If this place gets windy, he's incredible. If it still, like I said, stays rather benign and plays easy, he's still incredible. He putts best on bent grass. When you look over the last 100 rounds on the PGA Tour, his best putting surface by far is bent grass greens. I mentioned a California kid. And when you look at last week and what he did, what he did last week, he didn't gain the normal strokes off the tee that he usually does. He was dead zero in strokes gained. Whereas since the restart, he's gained a half a stroke, 3 strokes, and 3 strokes, and then 0. So it really just sucked off the tee. Now, his irons were still extremely solid, gained almost 3 strokes on approach, and he just didn't putt that great. So all in all, I'm not too scared about Cantley. In fact, I hope a few people jump off of him as a result of the poor or kind of middling finish that he had at T35. Now, another player that I like in tournaments, but I'm going to list him as my cash play. So if you're playing 50-50s or double ups or head-to-heads, and you want to play a cash game, we recommend you typically, just focus on getting 6 players through the cut regardless of ownership. Don't try to be cute. Just put the 6 strongest golfers that you think can make the cut in a lineup. And I will start with Webb Simpson there in this 9K and above range. I love Webb here just from, a guy who is very accurate, a guy who can hit his long irons really well because he's going to have some long irons into these greens for sure. Coming off the T12 at the St. Jude where he felt like he kind of backdoored into that. He won the RBC Heritage a couple weeks ago. So I'll go with Webb in cash. And finally, my fade is going to be Tiger. It's major championship week, which means he's going to be a little extra popular, but it's really not about that. It's really about the highs here are 65 degrees. If he tees off in the morning, he's going to be teeing off in the 50s. And I just don't know that I want to back, Tiger's back. I don't want to back his back in this weather, in these, in those conditions. I think if I got to plant my flag and fade a guy, I'll fade the public Tiger and his aching back in cooler weather. He's talked about it though. Like this is not grandpa's knee hurting because he feels like it's about to start raining. Like Tiger has talked about the fact that in cooler weather, he struggles to get the back loosened up. So I think for that reason, I'll be out. There's a lot of great names here in the nine-can and buff, so it is tough to fade one. But if I got to, there's the one.
Okay, wow, this is going to be interesting. So there's some agreement and there's some disagreement here. So I will. I'm going to start though with a guy you didn't mention who I do love this week, and that is Jon Rahm at 10-5. I am not going to pay as much attention to what we saw last week. He did not play well. If you look at it across the board, I mean, he really was. I mean, he basically lost strokes in almost every single major category, other than off the tee and putting. I think it was just sort of an off week for John because we've seen him play incredibly well. We just saw him win at the Memorial in a very difficult course. I like him this week. I mean, you look at stats, he's definitely a great ball striker. He's 5th in the field off the tee. He's 21st in driving distance. So, and then he's also, he's fairly accurate. I mean, he's 32nd in the field in fairways gained. So this is kind of one of those guys that has the driving distance, the accuracy, all that kind of stuff. I think Jon Rahm is primed to win his first major. I love him this week at 10-5, so I will be all over him. I am in agreement with you on Xander. So Xander was actually my cash play. I can see you play him in tournaments and whatever else, but I just love him.
Interchangeable there.
Yeah, I just think he's a great, solid cash play, and I think he can easily win this tournament too. So I like him in cash. Cantley was my other GPP play. I was sort of surprised. I thought you might be in disagreement with me on him, and for all the same reasons that you said. Great putter on bent, checks the box off the tee, ball striking, distance. I think his ownership might be a little bit lower this week, like you said. I think there's a chance of that. So Cantley was one of my other GPP plays.
And I did forget to mention, we did find out after the fact, like it was like Thursday or Friday. It was Thursday night or Friday. Someone on the ground at WGC told us that Cantley was not feeling well or something. He had not been feeling well.
Yeah, but it wasn't the COVID. Apparently.
But it wasn't COVID, but he hadn't been feeling well, which may have led to the rough start. But it looks like he either started feeling better or he just powered through it because the weekend was much stronger.
Yeah,
something
agree there. So my last GPP play was actually Tiger at 9,200. I like him this week. Look, nobody can, he's sort of one of those players that's hard to peg because we haven't seen him all that much. He didn't play great. He barely made it into the weekend at the Memorial. But we know he's just a fantastic ball striker. We've seen him have success on this course before. Now it was, many moons and backs ago for Tiger. But I still think that he can have a good week. I want to see, I'm interested to see where his ownership comes in because he was like 20% in tournaments at the Memorial, which I thought was way higher than I thought it would be. I think it's going to be a lot less this week. We'll see.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be interesting. If I'm seeing a 20% Tiger, I probably would come in the Nut Hut on a Wednesday and say, you know what? We always get that question in the Nut Hut, by the way, like who's the guy you talked about on the podcast that you were on, but you were now off? I could see me because of ownership. And I know we talk about the public money and all that kind of stuff with Tiger. We'll want to look at that, but I still like him. I still think that, despite the weather and whatever else, we've seen him hitting the ball great all year long. So I'm in on Tiger at 9,200. I like the price too. My fade is going to be Bryson. I know you talked him up a little bit early on. I think he's going to be too aggressive this week. He's going to be bombing all over the place, but not in the right spots. You've seen him just
all over the place,
having all these blow up holes. Like he's going along fine, and then Bryson's going to Bryson, and then do something, and he's worried about ants and everything else out there. And I just, the thing with Bryson is this: he is he's very streaky. We've seen that throughout his career so far. Like he was playing great at the restart, we all saw that, but then he missed a cut, and then he didn't play all that great last week. So I'm kind of in that camp right now that Bryson's on the he's on the backside of a good streak, and he hasn't really played that well the last few weeks. So I'm not in on Bryson this week. I'm just I'm not.
By the way, I mean, props to us, Pat. I'm going to go ahead and take the victory lap here for finally getting Bryson to block us on Instagram. I'm very proud of that
Yes.
trophy.
Yes.
For those of you on YouTube, you can see the proof on Instagram here. He has officially blocked us because
He
he's a
still
baby
allows
back
us on Twitter.
biatch. Yeah, he
He still
follows us on
allows us
Twitter, but yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Man, I just Now here's the thing. I absolutely have not been afraid, despite hating his guts. I've not been afraid to play him. I mean, I've been playing him regularly since the restart. So it's not one of these things where I can't stand him, and I'm gonna tell you not to play him just because I can't stand him. That's not it at all. I can't stand him.
That wouldn't be smart.
No, it would not be smart. But I mean, if you look at the trend here, so he came out with the restart. The concern is his iron play. Obviously, strokes gained off the tee, he's killing it, and putting, he's killing it. But the concern is his iron play is trending in a very negative direction. At the Charles Schwab,
he started off hitting more fairways. Everybody was talking about that, right? Early on, they were saying, hey, not only is he bombing it, but he's hitting fairways. Well, not as much now. I mean, he's 98th in the field in driving accuracy.
Yeah. At the Charles Schwab, he gained 5 strokes on approach. At the RBC, he gained 6. Okay, he finished 3rd and 8th. Then at the Travelers, he went from gaining 5 and 6 strokes on approach to gaining 0.7. Okay, and he still finished 6th. But then at the Rocket Mortgage, which funny enough, he won. He lost a half a stroke with his irons, but he gained 7 off the tee and 8 putting. Okay, so then at the Memorial, he lost over 6 shots on approach and missed the cut. And then last week, he lost over 7 shots on approach and finished 30th despite 10 strokes gained with the putter. Now, I do think Bryson has, something that's not been talked a lot about is I think the way that he's putting right now is actually really, really smart. Like his whole arm lock and it looks terrible, but he may have broken the code there too a little bit. I mean, putting is definitely a lot of feel, and you got to read the greens, all that stuff. But in terms of like variability of the stroke, I think he's kind of cracked the code there too, and I think he's going to continue to putt well. I don't think 8 strokes gained, 7 strokes gained putting weeks every now and then are going to be crazy for Bryson. But the concern is definitely the irons and the wedge play is not adding up. So for that reason, I think I'm out if I got to do the Shark Tank deal. I mean, I think Bryson, I would agree with you there on the fade for Bryson, but I do think I think he's gonna double down on his strengths this week, and he's gonna I feel like his strategy is gonna be attack and give me the shortest club. Well, you can't say shortest club because all his clubs are the fucking same length because he's a dickhole. But give me the most lofted club in my bag, right, or whatever the hell he says. Give me the most lofted club in my bag from the rough, and I'll take my chances. I think that's what he's going to try to do. And if he does, it scares me a little bit to fade him because I
could see that.
It scares me a little bit.
Do we know what the ant situation is out there? I mean, are there a lot of ants?
Yeah.
I mean,
is this a popular season for the ants? Are the grasshoppers out? Because if grasshoppers are out right now, the ants are all afraid. We know that from the Disney movie, the Pixar movie. So if there's a grasshopper infestation at the moment, then that means less ants, which means Bryson's probably okay. So we need to check in on that.
Yeah,
all right, let's move to the 8K range, which will be Daniel Berger kicking it off at 8,800, no 8,900 player this week, all the way down to Patrick Reed and Terrell Hatton, both at 8K. Pat, I'll let you get it going on this one. 2 tournament plays and a cash play as well as a fade. But before you do, actually, Pat, I'm going to actually interrupt you there. I got to talk about something, buddy. I'm going to show the viewers on YouTube something scary right now. I'm going to show them my new undies. My new undies right there. See it? It says "Chill the boys." Chill boys.
Gosh, you know what? I'm wearing mine as well. But I'm going to save the audience that views us on YouTube of any sort of visual of that.
Our friends at Chill Boys have sent us some amazing underwear. I am wearing currently the Bamboo Boxer Briefs. That's right. I said bamboo. Yeah. And these things, my favorite part of it is the anti-chafing zone, which is coming in handier as I sit on this wooden podcast chair. in my hot freaking attic or bonus room, which I know yours is too. The anti-chafing zone is critical. It may be what Bryson needs to maybe get himself in a better mood. But if you're like us, you don't like playing golf or even talking about golf in hot, sticky clothes. It can be a distraction. So our friends at Chill Boys, have come up with a solution. They're a Minnesota-based company making lovely, lightweight, breathable underwear for any weather circumstance, any circumstance. And they sent us a whole thing of these, and they're so freaking nice. I threw away a bunch of my old stuff just for this. But imagine if you could play a round of golf on a humid 90-degree day without sweating your nuts off, and take care of the boys. Picture yourself in that hot, humid day, not worrying about sweating through your shorts and keeping your balls nice and comfy, So I'm really proud to have the Chill Boys on board. They are a great bunch of guys. We've talked to them on a Zoom call. They were very nice. And yeah, Minnesota based, love golf, love the show, and said, you know what, your listeners need to know how to chill the boys. So hey, listeners, do us a favor. Go check out our friends Chill Boys. Go to chillboys.com to see the full line of cool, soft boxers and boxer briefs, and use code Tour Junkies to save 15%, not a measly 10. We're talking about
15. That's pretty good. That's
15%.
one of the highest percent discounts we've seen on some of these deals.
Yeah, you can get 15% off your first order. Anything you order, you could order all kinds of stuff. Anything you order, 15% off. And again, all you got to do is go to chillboys.com and use code TourJunkies. Save that 15% off, man. These things are – now the bamboo I learned is just naturally cooler and softer than cotton. And I can tell you personally, because you boys on YouTube just saw my undies, it is true. It is true.
Yeah. I'm wearing the cool ones or whatever they call it, not the bamboo ones, but the other cooling boxers, and they are quite comfortable.
Very nice. We appreciate the Chill Boys for helping us out. Now, let's get to the 8K range on DraftKings. Where are you going to start?
I am starting right there at the top with my boy Daniel Berger. Been on him all year, and I'm still going to stay with him. I mean, the guy's just playing incredible golf. You know, you look at his ball striking, he's 12th in the field. He's top 15 in the field in driving accuracy. You know, I talked about that stat of par 4 scoring from 450 to 500 yards. He is number 4 in the field in that stat category, and also 8th in strokes gained approach. You can't argue with the form. I think that he is probably one I'm going to be eating a little bit of chalk with. I would imagine there's going to be some ownership there on Daniel Berger, but I do not care. I love him this week, and we'll play him at 8,800. I'm a big fan of this whole range, really, by the way. There's a lot of guys in here I actually like. I think you're probably a little different, but I'm going also back to Jason Day at 8,400. 3 straight top 10 finishes. The guy is just he's playing good golf right now. You cannot argue. I mean, there's no argument there. I mean, the guy's
playing. I can't argue.
Good.
No, I will not argue.
I mean, he's playing good golf. I mean, the back's always an issue. We know that. But we have consistently seen super low ownership on him. I think he was like 6% owned last week. And I think you'll probably get it again as well. He was 6% in GPPs at the WGC, and he's been consistently under 10%. I like some Jason Day there at 8,400. He will be one of my tournament plays. My cash play, who I could also play in tournaments as well, it's kind of like Xander up in the 9K range, is Morikawa at 8,600. Another just fantastic ball striker. Seen him in pretty good recent form lately with the win and whatever else. I mean, just across the board. I mean, the guy is incredible. About the only stat where you really don't see him pop is driving distance. But
yeah, he's not super really long.
I'm not really that concerned there with him for Collins. So I like him.
He's not short. He's not short.
He's not short. He's just not, Yeah, he's kind of middle of the pack when you look at his driving distance numbers. And then my fade is going to be a guy that I've been loving on. I've been loving on him. I've been stroking his head. That is Terrell Hatton at 8,000. I am going to fade him this week. I know we've had some good form from him. I feel like that, at that price at 8,000, I thought he might be a little bit more expensive, but he didn't have a great week last week. Not very accurate off the tee. Doesn't check the box in driving distance. Doesn't check the box off the tee where he's really been making hay is on some of the shorter courses on his, with his approach game and everything else, which I do think is important out here. But I'm just not a big fan of Hatton. So I will be fading him at 8,000. So there you go. That is my 8K range. And I was interested because I don't know if there's like chat things flying through here that I'm not looking at, but like I just get these like the YouTube version smirks from DB. So I'm wondering like what the hell's going on the whole entire time.
I gotta say I've never felt more like a stripper in my 36 adult years because a YouTube viewer and longtime listener, Marcus Miklovich, has sent us a super chat for $1.99 because I showed my underwear. So I'm getting
you getting dollar bills thrown at you.
I'm getting dollar bills. I'm getting dollar bills. I feel special right now. I feel a little tingly in my middle. A little tingly in the middle.
It would be Marcus that would do that.
It would totally be Marcus. Yeah, I mean, it would not surprise me that it was Marcus. I mean, he's a California guy. They're all little. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel a little weird. But hey, I'll take the $1.99. I'm not going to turn it down. I will take the $1.99. So that was what was going on. I don't even remember who you picked. I know you said you stroked.
What do you think I would have gotten if I had actually decided to show mine? Like, would I have probably gotten like a negative?
Only one way to find out, champ. Only one way to find out. All I heard was you stroked Terrell Hatton's head, and he hadn't been playing well. So maybe you should stop.
No, he's been playing well, but not last week, and I just don't. I don't like him. He was my favorite. So.
Okay. It's really hard to ignore Berger in this range. I feel like he may be one of the most popular. I think he's going to be top. I bet he's top 3 or 4 owned because people are going to play him. Even if they go like studs and duds, they're going to play him. And if they fade the top and go way balanced, they're going to play him. The form is just impeccable. And the greens in regulation, the approach play, I mean, everything just checks. So I feel like he's going to be super chalk. For that reason, I put him as my cash play. And I think what may happen is Morikawa may go a little under the radar. Maybe not. Maybe I'm completely missing the boat here.
Maybe flip those two.
I kind of like playing Morikawa. I mean, I had him written down anyway. I bet him a couple weeks ago for the PGA at Harding Park. He's familiar at this place. He's played here. He's on record talking about how he's rather familiar with Harding Park. He's obviously a California kid as well. 7th in the field in strokes gained approach, 9th in greens and regulation, 12th in strokes gained off the tee since the restart. You mentioned it, just won a few weeks ago. I think Morikawa at 8,600 is a steal. But either Berger or Morikawa, I love them. And I think either one of them I would play regardless of ownership. That is chalk that I would eat in that range. Now, a guy that I do think I may get a little bit of leverage with, and hopefully, dear God, some winning upside would be Hideki Matsuyama.
I knew it.
I'm going to try Hideki. I haven't played a lot of Hideki since the restart. I really tend to be one that picks my spots with Hideki. But at $8,200, coming off a T20 at the WGC, okay, not bad. 11th in approach, 14th in greens and regulation since the restart. He's had some trouble off the tee. I'm hoping that gets worked out. Now, we know Hideki is a god-awful putter. Now, we are coming off of Bermuda, which he is off the charts piss poor in putting on Bermuda. We're getting away from that. His 2 best services are POA and bent. So thank God. That's what we're coming to this week. And his iron play is still very solid since the restart. He's only had 1 week where his irons have sucked, but he's gained 3, 5.5, 5, all since the restart. He just needs to hit a few more fairways and just a couple more fairways, and I think he's fine. But long-term form, hitting fairways and greens is not a problem for Hideki. These are not super difficult greens. They are a little larger, so maybe you have to worry about some 3 putts with Hideki. But I don't feel like he's going to be real chalky. And I think I could get some leverage and potentially winning upside at a guy who's competed in a ton of majors, ton of WGCs and big events, and he's in good form. So I think Hideki's my guy. I'm going to fade Patrick Reed. I'm going to fade him. I don't mind playing Hatton. I'm not going to freak out over the 69th place finish at WGC, but I don't like where Reed is at right now because unlike Hatton, his iron play has been really, really bad. He's just saved everything with his scrambling, which you can do. But his iron play has been awful. 92nd in approach, 95th in greens and regs since the restart. I think I'll pass. So there's the 8K range.
Okay.
Ready to move on to this monstrous 7K range, Patrick?
Yes. Gosh.
What are you doing here? I don't know what to do here. I got to be honest. Like I'm all over the place here. I got a lot of names, lots of names written down.
I'm kind of the same. I'm a little all over the place, but if you want me to start, I will. And I am going to start. I'm going to start in the middle range here. And this is a guy that you liked last week. And we've seen him. We saw him play okay last week with a T35, but he's definitely a guy that I think can play this course really well. And that is Sergio Garcia at 7,600. I'm a big fan of his this week. I think ownership will probably still be low on him. You look at the stats, though. He is second in the field off the tee. He's 8th in scrambling, 14th in driving distance. That may actually surprise you. 23rd in that par 4 scoring stat from 450 to 500 yards. The biggest part with him is we always talk about, and he is checking the box in ball striking, but on strokes gained approach, he actually hasn't been as good. So, I think that's been kind of where his issues has come up. But I do like Sergio at 7,600, so I will play him as a tournament play. My cash play, I mentioned, I'll go back to some of my tournament plays though, is Abraham Answer at 7,700. I just think he's a great cash play. Checks all the boxes from a stat category, from stat standpoint. I mentioned the fact that outside of that one bad round last week, he played incredibly well. He continues to do that. He's in good form. So I think Answer is a very good play there at 7,700. Another guy that I really like down below in the low 7K range is Harris English. Harris English is just one of those guys that just kind of plods along. He's never, I don't know if you got a ton of win equity out of him, but he is just a solid golfer. And you look at his last couple of events, he was 18th at the 3M, and he was T13 at the Memorial. As far as the stats are concerned for Harris, I mean, he's a great scrambler, hits the ball in the fairway. He's pretty good with his approach game. He's in the top third in the field as far as strokes gained approach and ball striking. So I think at 7,200, you can't really – I mean, he's a good guy to get on right down there if you need a little bit cheaper guy here in the 7K range. So I like Harris English. And then my last tournament play is a guy we haven't seen at all. And I keep gambling on this, and it has not really paid off. But I'm going to go with Adam Scott at 7,800, a guy that I still think has a great game for this course. He's going to be low owned for sure. I like the price at 7,800, so I will play him in tournaments. And you know who my fade's going to be? And I don't even know. This is like I'm kind of like you. There's several guys I think I could fade, but this is a guy I'm wondering about where the ownership's going to be just because he's right there in the middle of this range, and that is Matt Kutcher at 7,500. Just doesn't excite me all that much. We haven't seen him really contend at all.
He doesn't feel like backdoor top 10 Kutcher anymore. He feels like he's kind of lost it. Like a couple years ago, last year, he was this backdoor top 10 machine. I mean, his last top 10 was the Genesis. Before that, you have to go all the way back to the Canadian Open in June. Yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't feel the same since really the beginning of 2020. It just hasn't felt the same.
Yeah, and I don't know. And it's not. I mean, he's not been. You look at ownership, it hasn't been incredibly high over the last few weeks, but I don't know. I think a lot of people, especially when you get newer players on some of these bigger weeks like this, you're going to look at a guy like Matt Kutcher at 7,500 and just be all over it. I'm not a fan. So he will be my fade in the 7K range. So there you go. DB, it's your turn now.
I'll start with, I'm surprised by a couple of the names here. I like it. I like it. I'm going to start with my fade, and it's going to be Justin Rose. Don't like the form. Three missed cuts most recently. Now, he did come out pretty hot on the restart with a third and a 14th at the RBC Heritage. It does feel like a good price, but when you look at the stats, it's not good. The stats are not good at all. He's changed his equipment, which we know, and I think that'll benefit him, but he's still going through it. He's also changed his coach. I just think there's a lot of variability going on with Justin Rose. Now, he's a name. He's a major winner. There's for sure upside. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Like if we get 4% projected Justin Rose come Thursday morning when you're tinkling and tinkering, then maybe that's one to jump on. But I feel like if I'm going to, I thought the easy route would actually be a guy you named, which is Adam Scott, because I've just made I've made a living since the restart fading guys making their first start. But I don't want to do that. I think it's Rose. My cash play and tournament play and whatever you want to do with him is the same as yours, Abraham Answer. Abe just doesn't make a ton of mistakes, which bodes well for a guy at $7,700 that you need to make a cut. You need to have some upside. He just doesn't make mistakes. His greens and regulation numbers are off the charts. And he's playing with a lot of confidence right now, I think. And the form is as good as he needed to be coming into a PGA Championship. It's interesting that you mentioned Sergio. I actually had him written down. I'm going to go, since this is the Monday show, I'm going to try to give you some guys who I think are a little off the radar a little bit. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to start. Now, I will say this. One guy that I do like that's not off the radar is Chezz Reevy. I like Chezz, playing really well right now, but he's going to be popular. A guy right below him, or right there with him at 7,400, I'm going to play Bubba Watson this week. I like
it. I like that call. I'm surprised you said that, but I liked it. I was a little nervous to say it, to be honest.
But there's a number of players on record talking about how this favors a right to left ball flight. He 25th at the WGC St. Jude. Iron play wasn't fantastic, which I don't like to see that, but I don't know. I got a feeling here with Bubba. I think he's coming around. I read something earlier that he's now employed Claude Harmon, Brooks Koepka's guy, to help him out with putting a little bit and help him out with like course management, kind of mental stuff. Bubba made a point in saying that it wasn't a swing coach because, right, Bubba's never had a swing coach at one. Wants to go to the grave having never had one. But I don't think he needs a swing coach. If you look at his numbers, for $7,400, he's since the restart. Okay, so since the restart, he's 35th. This is like a bunch of miscuts or a few miscuts in it. He's 35th in approach, 25th in greens and regulation, 6th in strokes gained off the tee, and number 1 in par 4 scoring 450 to 500. I mean, it's pretty solid for a guy at $7,400 who's a major champion who can contend. So I think I'll get some ownership leverage with Bubba. I'm going to skip around here a little bit. And then I'm going to go to a guy who I think you were on last week, and I just missed the boat. And he's burned me. He's burned me since the restart. And it's Shane Lowry at $7,500.
Yeah.
Tee to green has been pretty solid. Needs to maybe hit a couple more fairways would be nice. Losing a little bit off the tee. But his best putting surfaces are bent and POA. Played really well last week. Played very, very solid. Tee to green, gained over 7 strokes. If it gets windy, we know he can play in the wind. He's competed in majors. I don't know. I kind of like Lowry at 7,500.
He ended up in my best lineup last week that I had. And I will say this, a little plug for the Nut Hut. I can't remember what the information was, but we have some sharp listeners in there. And somebody threw out it, whether it was a stat or a little bit of inside information on him that really just kind of struck me. And that was how he ended up in there. So it's, again, it's not just like we talk about this all the time with the Nut Hut. It's not just us throwing out information. We got a lot of sharp listeners and folks out there. And that was where I got the tip to play Lowry. And it worked out pretty good.
Yeah. There's some names down here in the low sevens, though, that are very interesting to me. I mean, I think your boy Tom Lewis pops and is obviously confident. Corey Connors, when you think about iron play, tee to green, a safe cut-making name, I think, at $7K. I think that's interesting. I think the same about Kevin Na. And I like old Seabez. I'll go back to the well with Seabez. Christian Bezenhout at $7K. Those are all some names I think are kind of interesting in that lower $7,000 range on DK. I just got to throw those out there. These are just names I'm mulling around and that kind of, they kind of hit me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
all right. Who are your plays in the 6K range? Who's catching your eye?
All right, so I'm going to give you 2 up top, and then I got one very cheap guy that I think could be an interesting play. But So I'm going to start with Brendan Steele. And, I know you just can't stand his swing, and you hate this. You hate the Brendan Steele swing.
I freaking hate it.
Yeah, it's not great. But we've seen him play well. You look at his last 3 starts, T6 at the Travelers, 52nd at the Workday, but then he followed that up with a T13 at the Memorial. Looking at the stats right now, he's certainly checking a few boxes there. I mean, he's 40th in the field in ball striking. He's 30th actually in driving distance, 12th in par 4 scoring from 450 to 500 yards. He's 33rd in strokes gained approach. He is also 12th in that proximity stat I mentioned from 175 to 200 yards, which I think they'll be in that range a lot this week. So Brendan Steele, I think, makes a little bit of sense down here in the 6,900 range. Another guy that I like is Dylan Fratelli at 6,800. I like him as well. He is, he's good in that par 4 scoring stat. He's an accurate driver of the golf ball. Checks the box and off the tee when you're considering guys that are down this low. So I like some Fratelli, and he's been playing pretty well lately. You look at his last last 2 starts. He's got an 18th at the 3M. He was 22nd at the Memorial. So that was coming off a couple missed cuts, but we do know he got the COVID and then had to come back, and he missed a couple cuts, but then played well, like I said, at the Memorial and 3M. So I think Fratelli is a good play here at 6,800. Another guy now going really cheap is Tyler Duncan at 6,200. He has made 6 straight cuts on tour, which I think is pretty daggone good for a guy that you're getting at $6,200. Looking at the stats for him, you got to go way down for those. He's 3rd in the field in driving accuracy. He's 40th in that par 4 scoring from 450 to 500 yards. He checks the box in strokes gained approach. Good ball striker. So I think really cheap at 6,200. Can't really go wrong with trying a guy out like Tyler Duncan. Now, I don't know how much I'm going to go that low in a lot of my lineups, but, I think, before you get to these PGA pros and everything else that are down here, he is certainly worth a look, and he's making cuts. And so, if you need a cheap guy to throw in your lineups and you're playing that studs and duds strategy, I think he can be a little fill-in right there. So there's 3 guys in the 6K range that I like.
Okay. There's agreement with Fratelli. I kind of looked at Fratelli. He's interesting. I know he struggled a little bit, and I need to dive a little deeper. He struggled hitting some fairways, but that may be on the upswing here. But I'll start with the lowest option I have right now, which is HV3, Harold Varner to the third at $6,600.
I like him.
That's just a really good value for a guy who, plays and contends at a lot of PGA Tour events. He almost won the Genesis here at Riviera back in the spring, a comparable course on the West Coast. He finished 36th at last year's PGA Championship. He's got a 7th place finish at a Players Championship. Not a ton of, major championship experience for Harold, but, he's a longer player. So, long irons, shouldn't be too much of a problem for him. He's 3rd in greens and regulation and 15th in strokes gained approach since the restart. Very solid for HV3.
Yeah.
It's tough to ignore the ball striking ability and cut making ability of Lucas Glover at 6,700. It's really tough. Like if you're thinking, all right, I need to get 6 of 6 through for sure, and you're going to play a studs and duds. Lucas Glover feels like that kind of guy at $6,700. It just feels like a very safe, high floor guy. Is the upside all that great? Like, should you play him in the Millie? I don't know. Because, if you're going to play the Millie Maker, like, you need 6 guys in your lineup. They're going to finish top 15, right? Or at the worst. You need the winner. You need 4 guys in the top 10, and you need 1 guy 15th or better. And I don't know that Lucas gives you that great of upside, but if you're playing in a smaller, lower entry contest, maybe higher dollar, I think Glover's an interesting cut maker at 6,700. Then above Fratelli, or right there with Fratelli, Luke List is actually a surprisingly good, tough golf course, kind of long, but longer. He's actually good at those. If you look historically over how he performs on par 70s that score difficult, he's actually very solid with that. And he's coming off a good form. He just won on the Korn Ferry Tour, which I know is not a PGA Tour victory, but it's a win, right? The guy's confident. He checks a lot of boxes since the restart. 41st in greens in regulation, 15th in strokes gained off the tee, 40th in par 4 scoring, 450 to 500 since the restart at $6,800. So like him. Finally, as I work up, 2 names at 6,900, I think Ryan Palmer and Matthias Schwabe are very solid plays. I've been on Ryan Palmer a lot since the restart. Shockingly, I've got him right most weeks. I think I missed him on the 2 weeks he missed the cut. But, I mean, look at him since the restart. Ryan Palmer is playing very, very well. I think he likes difficult golf courses. But, I mean, since the restart, he's got an 8th place finish, a runner-up, and a 15th at the WGC last week. The irons were on point last week and the week before, or his week before, the Memorial, where he gained 10 strokes with the iron play. I think that's solid. And Matthias Schwab has also played very well, and he's played good in WGC events in the past with a T4 at the WGC HSBC back in the winter area. And he just played last week at the Barracuda and played very well, was making a lot of birdies, a lot of eagles. So clearly he's playing well. He's hitting the ball well. He's striking it well. I think he's an interesting name that'll also give you very low ownership because a lot of people don't know who the crap he is. So